Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe, Kyle, and Ray. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. What will Joe, Kyle, and Ray say about Godzilla -1?
Let them fight.
And this is episode number 193, and in this episode, cinema has lost a legend in Gene Hackman. The boys will pay tribute. And then, we will do battle. One that is not waged to the death, but a battle to live for the future. The boys will debate over Godzilla -1 as Joe continues a battle with a bad cold. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Oh, thanks for having us here.
Excellent, excellent.
Mr. Schmucker, some people can read War and Peace and come away thinking it's a simple adventure story. Others can read the ingredients on a chewing gum wrapper and unlock the secrets of the universe.
So yeah, we lost Gene Hackman, born 1930 and passed away very recently in 2025 under some pretty strange circumstances, which at this point, we don't know exactly what happened yet. But boy, what a career this guy had.
This is a celebrity death that I kind of knew was imminent, but certainly not the way I would have expected it to go down. This was not a surprise. I mean, he was 95 years old, but the circumstances surrounding it are just crazy. He's one of those actors that everything I've ever seen him in, he's been great, even if the movie is kind of crappy. And I do feel a little bit guilty for this celebrity death, because a few weeks ago we were talking, I just rattled off the top of my head a list of my favorite actors, and Gene Hackman was one of the names that I mentioned just off the cuff. And just 2 or 3 days later, we got the news that he'd passed away. So sorry about that.
I didn't even realize quite how old he was until he passed, and I looked and saw, well, not only that he was 95, but he hadn't done anything. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that he hadn't done a film since 2004. And it was, unfortunately, his last thing was Welcome to Mooseport with Ray Romano. So,
not familiar with that one.
Yeah, I wasn't either until I looked it up. But boy, does he have some classics. He had a lot of TV and a couple things before. The first thing that I saw on his IMDb that I recognized was Bonnie and Clyde. He was in that one. Yeah, absolute classic. And I think the one that he's really known for, the one that I would assume is his breakout role, could just be that I don't recognize some of the others, but The French Connection in 1971. Holy cow.
All right, Popeye's here. Get your hands on your heads. Get off the bar and get on the wall. What's my name?
Popeye Doyle. If he doesn't like you, he'll take you apart. And it's all perfectly legal, because Doyle fights dirty.
That's got to be my favorite Gene Hackman film. And if we do a tribute review to Gene Hackman, that would be the film that I would recommend. It's a classic.
Absolutely.
I would go with Hoosiers, actually.
Forget about the crowds, the size of the school, their fancy uniforms, and remember what got you here. Focus on the fundamentals that we've gone over time and time again. And most important, don't get caught up thinking about winning or losing this game. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners. Okay?
Also an excellent movie.
Yeah, he's honestly, he's got so many. I mean, between The French Connection, he was in Young Frankenstein.
Classic.
Yeah. And it was funny. I can remember being a kid and my mother, I guess she was kind of a fan, because I remember at one point I heard her saying something about, I can't believe that he knows Gene Hackman because of Superman. You know, like she's kind of thinking like, you know, this guy has done such great work, whatever. But yeah, I mean, obviously greatest Lex Luthor of all time.
Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of our time. Of our time? I hereby serve notice. He's serving notice to you. That these walls here. Will you shut up, please? You all right, take him away, boy. You don't hear me.
Oh yeah, I was going to say the same thing. He is the definitive Lex Luthor.
Big time, 100%. But he did a lot of things after that were pretty great. One of his, I probably lesser known, but I love it, is Uncommon Valor.
Now, in the most important mission of their lives, they're going back to get their buddies who were left behind.
Let's go! Are you ready? All right, gentlemen, let's go.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, really? Oh, you guys will like that one. That's a good one.
I'm going to throw out Unforgiven as another one of my favorite Gene Hackman movies. The Firm is another great Gene Hackman movie.
Yeah.
He did a Woody Allen movie, which was sort of one of those Woody Allens that, you know, when he's trying to get into more serious stuff, he did a movie called Another Woman, and he's really good in that. He's really impressive in that film. Loved him in Get Shorty. Kind of thought he was a little, you know what I mean? Kind of, he carries a lot for his role. You know, he kind of played that one perfectly in that one. He was in The Birdcage, which was great. What's that?
Mississippi Burning.
Yeah,
Good choice. So is
Absolutely.
The Birdcage. Both of them good films.
Yeah, and the last one I think I remember him in was The Royal Tenenbaums. I mean, he was great in that one too.
Oh yeah.
He makes that movie.
He really does, and it's so funny because he's a pretty strong actor, but he's able to do those little weaselly parts, you know, pretty good. Like kind of like just a little sleazy, but kind of in a good way. He's got a lot of range. This guy.
Yes, he's the
Absolutely.
type of actor like a Tom Hanks or Jack Nicholson who can do some of the more dramatic things and very, very serious roles, but also has comedic chops and really good comedy timing. Because any comedy that Gene Hackman has been in, he's got it. He's got the rhythm down to do comedy just as well as a film like The French Connection or Unforgiven.
Yes, absolutely.
And Joe, going back to what you said earlier about not realizing that he was retired since, what would you say, like 2004 or something like that?
Right, yeah.
His resume is so huge. He's in everything that you see that's on TV. Like, chances of him being on a film while you're flipping through the channels,
right?
Chances are pretty damn good. So, yeah, I didn't even know he was retired either.
Right, because he's just so present. He's done so many things. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, there was a time Absolute Power was on TNT a lot back in the day, or Enemy of the State. That was another popular basic cable movie that you'd catch every now and then. Both of them really good movies, and he's wonderful in them.
Yeah, great actor, boy. He's going to be missed.
Salute to Gene Hackman.
Cheers, boys.
そう言いましたよね。あいつらは毎晩夢に出てくるんです。
Japan has just been ravaged by the Second World War when a gigantic peril emerges off the coast of Tokyo in the form of a giant monster baptized in the horrific power of the atomic bomb. With his fragile newfound peace hanging by a thread, Koichi, kamikaze pilot and deserter, is traumatized by his first confrontation with Godzilla, but sees this as an opportunity to redeem his conduct during the war and has one last chance to right a wrong and clear his name before the unstoppable atomic monstrosity makes it to Ginza. Written by Takashi Yamazaki, Aishiro Honda, and Takeo Murata. Directed by Takashi Yamazaki. 2023's Godzilla -1.
I had actually messaged you guys when I sat down to watch this, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was in black and white. And you're like, no, I think that's like a special edition or whatever. I just, talked into my remote, Netflix popped up, so I watched Godzilla -1 minus color, and I actually really enjoyed it. When I was done with it, my kids wanted to watch it too, so I restarted with the color version, and I wasn't as impressed. I actually think the black and white version that I watched was really good. It had the old school vibes, and I haven't liked a Godzilla movie, not any recent one that I could think of. This one just took it back to the old school. Watching it in black and white made it that much better. It had that nostalgia to it. There were some really cool scenes. I didn't think Godzilla got enough screen time, and I kind of dug the humanity of the story. The action sequences were really good, and again, just seeing it monochrome black and white, everything just popped a little more. Watching it, the color version with my kids, it wasn't as impressive. I don't know if that makes sense or if it was just the like I said, the nostalgia factor, seeing a Godzilla movie in black and white, that made it more appealing to me. But I actually enjoyed this one.
I'm kind of going to jump along with some of your comments and say that this movie really surprised me at how good it is as a film with a capital F. I didn't expect I thought at this point in the Godzilla series or in the long history of Godzilla films that it would be cheesy and over the top and kind of ridiculous and campy and overloaded with CGI. And this was not that. I was really shocked at how impressive it was as a film. Anybody that I've told, oh yeah, our next review is going to be Godzilla -1, they kind of chuckle because they think that it's going to be ridiculous, over the top CGI. This is a film. This is actually like a work of art. And I think one of the reasons why is so much time is spent on character. I feel real emotions about who these people are, what they've gone through. And like the best Godzilla movies, there's a lot of atomic warfare allegory to it. So you kind of have a feeling like these people lived through the war and are just rebuilding their lives. And you really do feel some emotion for them. So it impressed me, it surprised me.
I will echo everything you guys have said so far. Ray, I'm not surprised that seeing this in black and white gave it a little more gravitas and probably made it even more impressive. I had heard that about the black and white version. What really kind of got me with this film, just off the look of it, was how incredible the effects were. Because I honestly watched this and I felt that all the effects were just seamless. It feels like it's set in that era, in the World War II era. It's got that feel, but it feels like Godzilla is just in this movie. I mean, so the effect is flawless. So yeah, but Kyle, to your point, I honestly, if we were still doing the top tens of the year, I'm almost positive this would have been my number one.
Oh.
This film actually really did kind of blow my mind. I thought it was that good. And to your point, this is a film with a story. This is a real story about real people, and it is a typical, I don't want to say typical, but it is a sort of classic man versus movie. Every film is man versus man versus nature, etc. This is everybody teaming up to fight Godzilla, and it's an incredible story. It's a redemption story. I mean, it's so good, and you really do feel for the people in this. So yeah, I think everything about this fires on all cylinders. And again, not to sort of harp on this idea, because I don't want to make it sound like, I think the most important thing in this is the story. But with that said, honestly, the effects in this film really kind of blew me away. I was actually a big fan too, by the way. Before this one, there was a film called Shin Godzilla. I don't know if you guys caught that one.
I'm aware of it. I haven't seen it. That was fairly recent, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was only a few years before this one. But that also kind of came from the Toho studio, the original studio. And boy, are these in stark contrast to the kind of American-ish Godzilla stuff.
Right.
Those I find a little hard to watch. I mean, kind of fun, just for what they are. I kind of feel like these are like the Fast and the Furious of the Godzilla movies, the American ones.
Right.
And I'll tell you this too, honestly, the thing they get wrong is, I don't know why they can't quite figure this out, but the American ones I saw, like the King Kong versus Godzilla, they cannot create the sense of scale. And that was sort of the thing that I was getting. Shin Godzilla did this great, which is why I kind of was blown away by that one. I thought that was a good story. That was a different story than this. And this is not a sequel to that by any stretch, because obviously this plays like its own thing. But the Shin Godzilla, they got the scale right. And it sort of blows my mind when you watch like King Kong versus Godzilla, that they don't know enough to put the camera, like make it look like this was hard to film. It's really frustrating because the camera is way up high like eye level with King Kong and Godzilla. So it just sort of it's almost like you went to the trouble to do this, but it still looks like guys in suits with little miniatures around.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a better looking version of that, but for all practical purposes, that's kind of how it feels. Like it's not like I'm not getting the sense of scale that I should be getting. With this movie, I get that. I really get the sense of scale here. And I kind of felt like I love how it sort of looks like classic Godzilla. And yeah, I really just loved it.
The best monster movies are the ones that don't show too much of the monster. And this one does it right. And I think the parallel that I would draw here is Jaws.
Yeah,
Jaws
I knew exactly where you were going to go. Yeah.
It's not about the shark. It's about Brody and Hooper and Quint. And we have the same thing here. This movie is not about Godzilla. It's about people, and it's about the people who are threatened by Godzilla and them going out to destroy this threat. That's why it works.
Yes, absolutely right. And to your point, it's got parallels with Jaws, the way it's sort of done.
Probably why I like it.
That was all, but that's kind of my complaint too, and that is a really good point. But I still wish there were more scenes with Godzilla. I only think there were 4, including the climax, which was like the last 40 minutes of the film, which was excellent. But I just wish there was more of him in there. Like I understand you had to build the story and everything, but
especially since it's so well done, it doesn't look ropey. It looks real.
It looks fantastic.
This is a very, very, very visually impressive film.
By the way, do you know the story with the budget on this film?
No
idea.
So, at a time when the Marvel movies and the James Bond movies, etc., when their budgets are around like $300 million and they look like crap, I'm thinking like the Flash movie, etc. You know,
Right.
Massive budgets, and you say to yourself, why is this not flawless when you have that kind of budget? This film was done for like $11 million.
You're kidding.
I'm telling you, look it up. It's notorious for being so inexpensively made, and it really is. Just talk about a hard lesson. And guys, this is how you make movies. Like if they could do this for 11 million, you do not need the other 280 to something to make your movie.
Well, part of that is there are no real big name celebrities in this movie, so the entire budget is going to the visuals and to the music, and it's working. I think that's what really impressed me with this film. Sumptuous visuals.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it is pretty amazing. It's kind of mind blowing how good it looks. Another thing that I really like about the film, and I never really noticed it until, let me say it another way. When I saw this, when I saw this in the theater, I was humming and I was playing the score a lot. And there's a theme that Godzilla has, that da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. I think that's sort of something that's been around for a while. I think there's been other movies that had that same theme. I don't know if I ever noticed it before or caught it, but boy, was this thing that was in my head after I saw this movie for a long time.
Now, when you guys watched this movie, did you watch it in Japanese with subtitles, or did you watch it with the dubbed audio?
I saw it with the subtitles.
Okay.
I did dubbed and subtitles.
All right. I only saw it once, and the default was the dubbed audio, and that's how I watched it. But I'd be interested to go back and watch it with the Japanese dialogue with subtitles and see if I like it better, because I do find that is often the case with foreign films. I like them better in their original language because the acting looks more authentic.
I do too. It's funny. I have a couple friends that we kind of have debates back and forth about dubbing versus subtitles. I've always gone for the subtitles because I feel like I want to hear the original audio. But the other argument that I've heard is that, yeah, but a director wants you looking at the picture. He doesn't want your eyes down here reading. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
yeah, well, that is true too. And I think for some movies they do put a lot of effort into getting the dubbing correct.
Mm.
Some of them are kind of notoriously not that good.
And sometimes it's done deliberately poorly just for comedic effect, and that's
Yeah.
always fun too.
Seriously. If you ever watch El Mariachi with the dubbed, it's pretty funny.
Or the Kung Fu one, I think it's called Kung Pao. That's
is that
very
right?
funny
Okay.
too. And one of Woody Allen's earliest films is a foreign film that he just redubbed with a completely different plot,
Right, yeah.
completely different dialogue, and it's hilarious.
What do you guys think about the well, foreign films in general, but the acting in this foreign film, like especially Japanese and all that, it's a different style than American acting.
It can get over the top, and this was not that way. This was much more subdued, and the characters, to me, read as real people, not as caricatures, which I think,
Yeah.
with the tone of this film, is very, very important. You could make it very silly and very over the top, and it becomes a completely different type of movie. This felt like a movie about real people, and a lot of that is down to the acting.
I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, they dodged the whole kabuki acting style thing with this.
Right.
It's really well done.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because these are, like you said, it's subdued, but this is some heavy material too. You know, like these people really do. They're here to work. You know, this is not a story about just, everyday stuff. This is serious stuff. I mean, there's World War II and, kamikaze pilots and atomic bombs. It's pretty serious stuff. There's a lot of bleakness in this movie, So yeah, but I think the acting, the people in it are just spot on, perfect. It's great.
It never becomes a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Godzilla definitely has a cultural heritage there too. So that's like, one of their things they're very proud of as far as films go.
I think this is one of those cases too. There's a big word I want to use, and I hope I'm saying this right, but verisimilitude.
Yep, verisimilitude.
Yeah. I kind of feel like this has that, where it's not winking at the camera. It's not like, yeah, we know this is silly, so we're gonna play. No. This is played very straight, and to its credit, it becomes a great film because it does take itself seriously. The themes in it are very serious, and it's all just so well done.
Well, we're presented with a real world.
Yeah.
Not too much of it is fantasy. There's the only fantastical element of it is the monster. Everything else is very real and very down to earth. This is a world that we recognize, which I think, again, keeps it from being a cartoon.
Big time. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because they create such a realistic world. All right, why don't we let's score this sucker. Kyle, what do you got?
I'm going to give this one a solid 9. There's really very, very little to criticize about this film, which you could tell by listening to our gush fest for the last 30 minutes. We liked it. I can't really complain about it, so it's got to be a 9. And like we were saying in the past, you save those 10s for the Raiders of the Lost Ark type movies, Jurassic Park, The Godfather. Those are 10s. This is a notch below those, but only just. So 9.
I'm gonna go 8-3. It's a great film. I'm just not a huge creature monster movie fan like that. Never really got into Godzilla, but I did enjoy it. I would say, and this is just my opinion, don't watch it in black and white first. Watch it in color and then in black and white, and then you'll give yourself a treat. Actually, you know what? I'll change that. I'll give it an 8-6 in black and white and an 8-3 in color.
Sounds like I need to watch it in black and white with Japanese audio.
I'm gonna match Kyle. I'm gonna say this is this. I will also say this is a 9. It's funny, and again, I don't know if I would ever call myself a Godzilla fan when I was a kid. I certainly watched them when I was a kid, but I always took them in, in good fun as they're meant to be. But I feel like this is different. I feel like this is, it is kind of a monster movie, but I feel like in the same vein as like Alien is a monster movie. I mean, it's a very, very solid, well done movie with a supernatural element to it. So yeah, I think this is a pretty near flawless film. So yeah, 9 for me.
I gotta thank you for this one, because if we weren't reviewing it, I probably would have skipped this one.
Agreed.
So this is, you guys hadn't seen it before this?
No, I hadn't watched this. It just something. It's not one that would have crossed my radar. I was aware of it, but it was one that I was like, what do I need to see another Godzilla movie for?
Right.
And boy, was I wrong. This is not just another Godzilla movie. This is a film with a capital F.
Kyle, who asked you?
Ooh, that's a tough one with such a high score. I'll say maybe there's a little bit of a dramatic lull in the middle. There is like a little bit of the pace slows down, I'll say, midway through, and I wrote down in my notes, like, I'm struggling right now, but then when it picked back up, it drew me right back in. So I think that was the filmmaker's intent, but there was a moment where I just felt like, okay, let's pick up the pace a little bit, get to the next moment that moves the plot forward, and spend a little bit less time on atmosphere. So that's really all I can say.
Kyle, I'm right there with you. There were a couple lulls there that I just wish something would happen to kind of, bring the energy back in the film. And I felt like it just took a little bit too long for those spots. But my biggest complaint is I didn't like the sound. The end sequence, the best part of the movie when everything's going crazy. You have the underwater, what they call it, the decoy team. Their ship comes flying out over the land and crashes into a building and all. And I'm thinking, oh, this is it. This is where it's going to happen. We're going to have that big payoff. And then all of a sudden it just like slowed down again. And then they go out to sea. And then you see, what's the name? Shika, help me out here.
God bless you.
Shikishima or Shika-san, flying the plane. And okay, then it's going to start picking up and they're going to have this big battle. And then it still kind of slows down a bit. Even the big battle sequence of him flying around Godzilla and almost getting bit, the pacing of it was just kind of slow. And the sound that was going on, the soundtrack that they were playing seemed upbeat. It wasn't that dun 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 like suspenseful track that I would expect for such a big scene in the movie. So the pacing, certain parts of the pacing, and the soundtrack, it would be my complaint.
I'm gonna echo you guys, because honestly, I could not think of much, but I will probably have to agree and say, yeah, there is a little lull in the middle. So yeah, maybe the pace could have been picked up a little bit. It is kind of a longish movie, so there was probably places that you could have tweaked a little bit. And if I really want to be overly critical, I would probably say I like what they're trying to do. He's got the little girl, he has the woman. They basically they're putting together an impromptu family, sort of. The work buddies are coming to the house. So you're trying to get a sense that, like, hey, look, we're trying to put real life back together and try to. So I get all that, and it almost makes me very hesitant to criticize it. But I guess I will say there is a lot of that. There's a lot of that, and it could have been picked up a little bit, sped up a little. For your consideration, Kyle, what do you got?
I mentioned it before. This movie feels like a real story about real people, so I would have to go with the characters. None of them are caricature. They're all real people with wants and desires and lives. And as you said, they're putting together impromptu families and rebuilding their world after the decimation of the war. So I've got to go with character. I think that's one of the things that elevates this from just another monster movie into a film.
For me, it was the happy accident of watching it in black and white. It made it that much better. Like I said, after watching it in black and white, seeing it in color, as impressive as it was, seeing it in black and white, old school vibes, and it just made everything pop, especially Godzilla. his eyes in black and white, terrifying. His scales, like everything about the creature, it was so much more amplified than it was in color, if you could believe that. So for me, go see it in black and white.
I'll check that out.
Again, I kind of almost hate to do this, but I'm going to go with the special effects. I just was blown away by how realistic it looked, you know. And again, the reason why I'm hesitant to say that is because I want to focus more on the story and say that this film, you watch it for the story. But honestly, it really kind of blew my mind. They nailed the scale of the monster. It felt real, you know, and you really did get a sense of dread, you know, like when that thing is chasing the boat. Like I kind of felt like you're in that boat with these guys, you know, and it really had that vibe because it was just done so well. And again, the fact that they did this for so little money is just mind blowing to me. So yeah, I got to give it to that.
A low-budget monster movie of the Godzilla type can so easily fall into the trap of crappy special effects, which turns it into a comedy or a cartoon.
Yes.
We're not there. They did a wonderful job.
Godzilla -1.
Fellas, I think that is Godzilla -1. I'm kind of glad that you guys, you know, I wouldn't have guessed that you guys hadn't seen this before. I would have assumed that you did. So yeah, I feel pretty good that I sort of pushed you to watch this one.
Yeah, thanks for this one.
Should.
I enjoyed it.
We will be back next week with another film. So gentlemen, thank you again.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe, Kyle, and Ray. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. You can also find our episodes on our YouTube channel. Check the link in the description. All clips in this podcast are for commentary and critique and are considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.
Up from the depths, 30 stories high,